Senior High School On-Air Academy. Unstoppable! Delivering you quality education amidst pandemic.
To defend school opening to October 5.
Unstoppable!
Giving you accessible learning platform anytime, anywhere.
Ng klase, whatever form it is.
Comprehensible!
Buckle up and get yourself ready.
I will repeat, then you will do it later on.
Accurate!
The sphere that includes all living things.
Today, we will be talking about rational functions.
Simplified.
This is Joss speaking. How may I help you?
This is Untitled School Radio's Senior High School On-Air Academy. And now, here's your new episode for Earth Terrific Saya.
Your guide in the subject, Earth and Life Science.
Earth Terrific Saya.
Earth Terrific Saya.
Good day, dear learners. This is your school on air in the subject, Earth and Life Science. How are you today? We hope that everything is well with you and your family. We are glad and excited to be with you again on the radio. I am your radio teacher, Sir Alexander Speciation. Today is a fun and exciting day to learn new things, discover life, and indulge in your imagination. So what are you waiting for? Join us now! Allow me to give you a few reminders before we start our learning session. Place the radio where it can reach a good signal. Ensure that this spot is quiet and relaxing with the goal for you to comprehend the lesson more readily. Additionally, set up the required materials for this broadcast like your notebook, journal, and pens, where you can write your answers, reflections, experiences, remarks, and feelings. Last but not the least, prepare your mind and heart to learn today. We are all set up now. Please shout ready in 1, 2, 3.
I'm ready!
Again. 1, 2, 3.
I'm ready!
Thank you, my dear learners. We can now begin. In the last episode, you discussed about different organ systems, namely digestive system, excretory system, muscular system, skeletal system, integumentary system, digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory system, reproductive system, immune system, and lymphatic system. I hope that you were able to understand its biological functions to the human body. Great! You were also given a quiz last episode, right? Now, let's answer your quiz. For item number 1, the answer is B. I'll repeat. 1 is B. Number 2, the answer is E. For number 2, it's letter E. Number 3, letter D. 3 is D. For number 4, it's letter A. 4 is A. And for the last item, number 5, the correct answer is C. Again, it's letter C. Did you got a perfect score? Good job! Now we can jump to our next lesson. Are you ready?
I'm ready!
Glad to hear that. But before we formally proceed, let us listen to this infomercial.
Ba't may gamit kayong radyo ngayon? Luma na yan ah!
Mare, ang radyo ay kailanman hindi na paglilipasan ng panahon, lalo ngayon. Isa ang radio-based instruction sa napiling gamitin ng DepEd para maituloy ang pag-aaral ng mga bata sa kabila ng pandemiko.
Wow! Ang galing naman! Sige Mare, uwi na ako para makabili ng radyo para sa inaanak mo.
Tara na't matuto sa kabila ng pandemiko. Isang paalala mula sa DepEd at ng himpilang ito. Sulong Edukalidad!
Welcome back, my dear learners. We can now jump to our new topic. I have a question for you, my dear learners. Who among you believe that human like you and me descended from apes? Now, try looking yourself in the mirror and be convinced that we evolved from apes. Just kidding, my dear learners. On a serious note, if that is true, then why are there still apes living today who are not evolved to humans? So where do you think this idea come from? We will answer that later as we go through our topic for today about evolution. In biology, evolution is defined as the process involving transformations and living things occurring over a long period of time. The duration of time involved in this process is thousands of years. There are theories of evolution, and these are based on the idea that all species are related and gradually change over time. Example: the theory of acquired traits by Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck in 1809. He observed that fossils of invertebrates bore certain similarities with modern invertebrates. This theory can be summarized into three parts. First, organisms desire to improve themselves and become more advanced. Also, the effort to improve causes some body structure to be constantly used. The frequently used body structure develops, while unused structure weakens and eventually disappear. Like the legs of the snakes. Yes, you heard it right. Each successive generation of snakes continued to stretch their bodies. At a point, the legs became useless, weak, and disappeared, since they would hinder crawling through narrow places. This is known as the principle of use and disuse. Lastly, modifications of structures due to use or disuse are inherited by the offsprings. This is called the principle of inheritance or acquired characteristics. An example is the giraffe's neck. Lamarck believed that giraffes before have short necks, but because of the need to survive and in order to reach tall trees for food, they keep stretching their necks until these become longer and able to reach the taller trees. Do you agree with the theory of Lamarck, my dear learners? Take this as a note. If you change the color of your hair from black to red, do you think your child or your children can inherit the red color of your hair? Or a young woman who keeps on using whitening soap and becomes fair? Can her children or child inherit her acquired fairness? Many scientists reject the theories of Lamarck. Let's look at the second theory, which is the Darwin and Wallace theory. These were two Englishmen, Charles Darwin and Alfred Wallace, who independently proposed their theory of biological evolution. Of the two, Darwin is more popularly known, as you know, although there were other naturalists who have proposed their theories of evolution. It is the Darwin-Wallace version which is the most widely accepted today. The Darwin-Wallace theory talks about the natural and artificial selection. Natural selection proposed that all living things exist today have a common ancestor. Different species evolved from these ancestors by means of natural selection, most popularly known as survival of the fittest. Those organisms which are suited to their environment will tend to produce the greater number of offsprings. Such organisms are said to be the most successful, as their descendants increases from generation to generation. According to Darwin, giraffe species originally had varying neck lengths, but natural selection favored the survival of giraffes with longer necks that could feed on taller trees that were available. Giraffe with short necks were eliminated due to lack of accessible food supply. Through natural selection, organisms attain to retain those features which allow them to have an advantage in adjusting the changing condition of their environment. If a certain species does not have those characteristics which allow it to survive and leave offspring behind, then the species could become extinct. Generally, his explanation goes with the following. Firstly, the number of offspring is usually greater than the available resources necessary for survival. Secondly, every organism must struggle to survive. Thirdly, some variations allow members to survive and reproduce better than others. Fourthly, organisms that survive and reproduce pass their traits to their offspring, and helpful traits gradually appear in more and more. These variations enable them to fit into their environment, and those who lack this are eliminated. Next is the artificial selection. Like natural selection, artificial selection involves the expression of the desired traits in an organism. However, it is man and not nature who drives this process. This is exemplified in animal and plant breeding practices. Plant and animal breeders manipulate crosses between different varieties of organisms to produce organisms with traits. As a result, we have fruits and vegetables. For example, broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage were all desired from the wild mustard plant through selective breeding. And orchids or ornamental plants occurring in different sizes, shape, and color. Likewise, there are also varieties of domestic cattle, swine, poultry, and fish. These numerous varieties are produced in a relatively short period of time, since man can easily generate or regulate the crosses or mating which could immediately produce the desired traits in an offspring. Did you understand, class? What are the two theories of evolution again? Very good, that's right. It's the theory of acquired traits by Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck and the Darwin and Wallace theory by Charles Darwin and Alfred Wallace. Are you still okay? That's good to know. Let's continue. The principal concept of biological evolution is that the different organisms existing today all descended from a common ancestor. The descent of this organism involved modification of the original pattern of the common ancestors. This modification came about because nature selected them for over a long period of time. There then arose many species whose forms and genetic makeup were distinguishable from one another. But how do biologists know that organisms evolve this way if the process takes such a long time to occur? Nice idea. Scientists are able to glean information about biological evolution based on available evidences as follows. 1. Fossils. These are remnants of evidence of a living things. The most common fossils are bones, skulls, and seeds of pollen grains. Most fossils are formed when the whole or part of an organism becomes buried in sedimentary rock, which provides the most important evidence about evolution of plants and animals. Petrified fossils are formed through petrification. Imprints are formed when soft body structures such as feathers and leaves leave impressions in soft sediments such as mud. Molds and casts are formed with the same shape as the original organisms. Scientists determine the absolute age of rocks and fossils by using radioactive dating techniques. The second one is embryological evidence. The growth and development of an embryo is controlled by its genes. Similarities in the early stages of embryo development are further evidence that living things have evolved from early living things and they share common ancestry. Third is homologous structure. The age of fossils is used to determine by taking note of the characteristics of the layers of the sedimentary rock in which the fossils are found. Similarities in the shape and arrangement of bones show they evolved from the same ancestors. A dolphin flipper, a bird's wing, a cat's leg, and a human arm are considered homologous structures. We also have what we call the analogous structure, which is determined through anatomy. Analogous structure are the structures that are similar in unrelated organisms. These structures are similar because they evolved to do the same job, not because they were inherited from a common ancestor. For example, the wings of bats and birds look similar on the outside. They also have the same function. However, wings evolved independently in the two groups of animals. Fourth one, chemical evidence. DNA and protein sequence are the chemical evidence, which shows that two or more organisms are closely related when they have similar sequence of DNA molecule. The same is true with the specific structure of protein. Variation of protein structure of one group as it evolves into another group show relationship in organisms. For example, human and chimpanzees DNA is so similar because the two species are closely related. Human and chimp DNA are nearly identical when you compare the bonds of chromosomes, the bundle of DNA inside nearly every cell, and yet they are so different. Although humans and chimps have many identical genes, they often use them in different ways. A gene's activity or expression can be turned up or down like a volume on a radio. So the same gene can be tuned up or turned up high in human and very low in chimps. So I hope that this answers our question a while ago. We did not came from apes or chimpanzees, but we just have similarities with them in DNA. Therefore, they are our closest living relatives. Fifth one is vestigial structure. Vestigial structure is a body part that is reduced in size and does not seem to have a function. Example is the tiny leg bones of snakes, which suggests that they evolved from an ancestor that had legs. Did you understand it, class? Okay, great. What are the 5 evidence of evolution again? That's correct. 1. Fossil. 2. Embryological evidence. 3. Homologous structure. 4. Chemical evidence. And 5. Vestigial structure. Wow, you remembered everything. Good job, learners! Now, we are down to the last part of our topic. After knowing some of the evidence discovered by scientists to prove the evolution has occurred, you are now ready to identify some factors that bring about changes in the species through time. There are factors that bring about organismal diversity. The first one is mutation changes. And the chromosomes of organisms that are heritable and are permanent are called mutation or chromosomal abbreviation. These mutations could be changes in quantity or quality. Mutations are responsible for evolution of a group of organisms, for it is transferred from one generation to another. Examples include albinism, sickle cell anemia, Raven syndrome, cystic fibrosis, and others. The second one is genetic drift. Genetic drift is evolution by change. It refers to an increase or decrease in the relative abundance of different cells through successive generations, simply by chance. It is a random fluctuation in allele frequencies over time. Generally, traits that get established in a population are those that are beneficial. However, some traits manage to get established and stay by chance since they are not harmful to organisms. Third one is gene flow, a change in an allele frequencies due to immigration. New individual enter the population, or emigration, some individual leave. Gene flow among organisms is based on the physical dispersal of alleles and trends to decrease divergence that might arise through other evolutionary factors. Fourth one, natural selection. In any population, more offspring tend to be productive than can survive to reproductive age. Members of the population vary in form and behavior. Some heritable traits are more adaptive than others. They improve chances of surviving and reproducing under prevailing environmental conditions. Speciation. A new species is formed when the individuals of a population continue to breed among themselves over a long period of time, and eventually accumulate a new set of traits unique to them. Set traits are already different from those of the original species. This is how a new species evolves from an older one. Sixth one is adaptation. Adaptation refers to the process where a species can tolerate the environmental condition of a place and efficiently compete with other species. If environmental condition would change drastically, only those species that possess adaptations to new conditions will survive. Those that are not adapted will perish, and their distribution will be limited to that place. Again, class, what are the factors that bring about organismal diversity? That is right. The first one is mutation. We also have genetic drift, gene flow, natural selection, speciation, and adaptation. Did you understand our lesson for today? That's great. Now, to summarize our lesson, let's remember these. Species changes over time. Fossil records, developmental and molecular biology and genetics may provide possible evidence of evolution. Hooray! We are done with our topic. Good job, my dear learners. Before we have your quiz, let us listen to this infomercial.
Mga tropa, dito sa ilog na lamang natin itapon ang mga basurang ito. Total maaano din naman. Oops, saan nyo yan itatapon mga bata? Itatapon namin sa ilog, tita. Nako, mali ang kaisipang iyan. Ito ay magdudulot ng pagkamatay ng mga isda. Gawin na lamang natin ang reduce, reuse at recycle o 3Rs. Ang basura ay ginagawang kapaki-pakinabang at ito ay mabisang paraan para mabawasan ang basura sa kapaligiran. Kaya tara na, mag 3Rs na. Salamat tita! Ngayon alam na namin ang gagawin sa mga basura para makatulong pa sa kalikasan.
Isang paalala mula sa kagawaran ng edukasyon at ng himpilang ito.
Tayo na sa Radyo Eskwela. Tayo na!
Now, let us assess how much you understand the lesson for today through a quiz. I will read the statements about evolution. Identify whether the statement is factual or not. Write fact if it is factual, and write fake if it is not. Write your answer in your notebook or answer sheets. Are you ready? Let's start. Number 1. Humans evolved from chimpanzees. Again, humans evolved from chimpanzees. Number 2. Charles Darwin developed the theory of acquired traits? Once again, Charles Darwin developed the theory of acquired traits. Number 3. Similarities in the shape and arrangement of bones show they evolved from the same ancestor called homologous structure. I'll repeat. Similarities in the shape and arrangement of bones show they evolved from the same ancestor are called homologous structure. Number 4. Artificial selection are produced in relatively short period of time and is faster than natural selection. Let me repeat this statement. Artificial selection are produced in a relatively short period of time and is faster than natural selection. We're down to number 5. In a speciation, new species is formed when the individuals of a population continue to breed among themselves over a long period of time. Once again, in a speciation, new species is formed when the individual of a population continue to breed among themselves over a long period of time. That ends our quiz for this episode. Now, let's have another activity on your journal. List down the things an individual must do in order to adopt and survive environmental changes and challenges. On your journal, list down the things an individual must do in order to adopt and survive environmental changes and challenges. Now, we're down to the last part of this episode. Thank you for listening and staying with me throughout the broadcast of the lesson. I hope and I believe that you learned a lot in today's learning session. Please let me know if you have questions. Write them on your notebook. And for checking of your notebook and journals, please drop it to the designated drop box found in your barangay hall. That's all for today, my dear learners. But don't worry, we will have another interesting topic next time, so consistently keep on tuning in here. Let me share a quote from Mandy Hale before I leave. Change can be scary, but you know what's scarier? Allowing fear to stop you from growing, evolving, and progressing. Choose to grow, choose to survive. On behalf of our scriptwriter, Ma'am Maria Jamila Pua, and to the RBI production team of Isabela, I am Sir Alexander Specia. Goodbye everyone and God bless.
Patuloy ang edukasyon para sa ating henerasyon.
Sa daan ng pagkatuto ay walang may iwan.
Kaya halina sa Radyo Eskwela.